Yo, what is up, guys? It's me. It's me. It's John P. And today I'm here with.
Yo, it's your co-host KT.
And what are we talking about today?
Today, we're doing a little something different. We've run through most of what's happening around the world of the WWE and sort of beyond. But today, we're going to talk about who is on your Mount Rushmore. And when we're talking about Mount Rushmore, who is your fave four? And boy, let me tell you, Johnny, my list is very long. I posted on my Instagram, and I kept adding names to it.
You're supposed to be four.
Yeah, but I guess the problem is that everybody's brought something different to wrestling that I've really appreciated, and I've been crossing off names.
Sure.
I mean, so before we get into it, how are we rating them? Like, how did you rate your?
So for me, I literally went off of impact, both inside and outside the ring. So it's like, what contributions did they do for the business? What did they do outside the business? How did they make that impact the in business? You know what I mean? So I really just based it off of that.
Okay. So was there within that inside and out of the ring? Was there a certain criteria within that itself that you looked at, or was it just kind of like?
Where were they in the company? They had to be at some point a top talent within their promotion
Okay.
or territory or whatever.
Mhm.
Really. And they had to be influential, in my opinion.
Okay. I think that's kind of what I was going for as well. I definitely looked at where they. I don't know if necessarily hell were they the top guy because there were only so many top guys, and some of the top guys who were there I don't think definitely need to be in this conversation we're having. So I think I know for me there were guys that I had in there that I don't think necessarily were top guys in like in any of the bigger promotions. So it was hard. It's hard. I definitely had. I guess let me just go through the names I had before. I have Stone Cold, Bruiser Brody, Ric Flair, Booker T, HBK, Bret Hart, The Rock, Triple H, Chris Benoit, Vader, Hogan, Undertaker, Macho Man, Jeff Jarrett, Dusty Rhodes, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, and Terry Funk. And I still feel like because there are guys I left off who were more international than were like American wrestlers. So it's just like, well, am I looking for from just like what I've seen? If I'm doing that, then like this list shrinks substantially because as much as I loved Hogan and Macho Man, I was still very young. So I appreciated the stuff I watched as a young kid and as a teenager, but by that point they were already kind of past their prime essentially. I mean Hogan was with NWO and he definitely hit a second like, spurt of like lifelong energy as being Hollywood Hogan, but watching him in the ring was brutal. Like it was slow. And I definitely didn't have Sting on there because I wasn't watching WCW like that at that point in time. So even though I have Vader on here, Vader stuff in WCW was better than stuff in WWF but I remember Vader because of his run in WWE, which kind of sucked. But he was the first big man that I just thought like man, he just looks imposing and scary, and he carried himself like that, and that always stuck with me. And yeah, so it definitely was hard to pick. So I'm gonna let you go first, and let's just go through it. So who was your first? Let's go. Yeah, who was your first one?
I got Vince McMahon. Yeah, Vince McMahon is number one. He's the first picture you see on the mural per se.
I thought we were. Wait. Okay, so we weren't playing wrestlers then? We weren't keeping it to wrestling?
Wrestling.
Oh, wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, that's. I think I was throwing for a loop there. I thought you were going to have a wrestler. So I mean, let's look at the evolution of Vince McMahon. Son of original Vince McMahon, who started WWF.
He was doing boxing before that.
Yeah.
And the company was different. You know what I mean? It was still like WWF was still a territory, if I'm not even mistaken.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even global or anything. Vince McMahon, they had a working relationship with other places, but Vince is just tenacious. You know what I mean? Like he's like, what do we have going on over here? I like that.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely took strides to make the WWF become a global brand. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And he wanted it so bad he became a wrestler. Vince
has 2 world title reigns in his own promotion.
That's
ECW and WWE. He wore a do-rag.
He wore a do-rag. That, I really would not have put. Because I was thinking about that too. Actually, it's fun. I mean, it's funny you say Vince McMahon. Because at first I was like, well, does that also mean like I could put Jim Ross on there? Because like Jim Ross is a very influential.
Stone Cold couldn't have been as over without Jim Ross. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean he's very influential when it comes to being the voice of a generation, but also he was behind the scenes as like a talent. He was he was head of talent for WrestleMania for WWE. Excuse me, ooh, my throat just cracked there. So I mean that's why that just makes my list harder. Because like that's really good because you're right. Vince McMahon is I mean his whole part in the Monday Night Wars is huge. I mean that's Vince McMahon versus Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon versus World Wildlife Foundation, Vince McMahon versus the steroid era. I mean,
Vince McMahon versus sexual assault. There's a lot of Vince McMahon versus concussions.
Vince McMahon today still is doing all types of things in terms of like wrestling, where he's basically keeping out promotions from Madison Square Garden still because it's his home turf. I mean, the man is the godfather of wrestling.
Yeah. That's why he's the number one on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Wow. Okay. Then I guess mine is Rey Mysterio. That's my first one. He definitely opened up my eyes to what luchador wrestling is and what it could be in terms of what it was here in America. I definitely got into more like wrestling beyond WCW, WWF because of Rey Mysterio. Because I knew
wrestling lore because of Rey Mysterio.
Well, more so just watching like luchador wrestling on like because here in Chicago there's like Channel 44 is like Telemundo and like on Saturday night I want to say back when I was a kid, teenager, wrestling like used to come on. I'm not sure if it was a CMLL promotion or AAA, but one of those promotions was syndicated on that television. I wouldn't be surprised if it's still on Telemundo. But like I used to watch wrestling there. I mean, I couldn't tell you any of the names of the folks because I couldn't speak Spanish. But at least it was like, okay, I am aware of this now because of just the greatness that is because I mean, Rey Mysterio is still wrestling to this day and looking just as spry and young, even with all the knee surgeries. I mean, some of the things he did just defied gravity. Like,
seriously.
Just the way he wrestled, the way he moved, and I think one aspect of Rey Mysterio that's kind of underrated, especially with people who wear masks, is like emoting. You have to tell a story in the ring, and while luchador wrestling doesn't necessarily have to do that because it's a lot more spot oriented, a lot more high flying. In like American wrestling, it's more carny. It's a lot more carny. It's a lot more about acting and theater.
Yeah.
let's keep it funky. So I mean, he managed to make that still relevant with his mask, and even when he wasn't wearing a mask, which was That's still very weird to me that that actually
Yeah.
happened, right?
We don't
Like,
talk about that.
we don't, you know, it definitely is something that's definitely, you know, glossed over nowadays because of how meh it was. But,
Could have been huge.
I mean, not with WCW. It was good when they did it for Juventud. It was kind of old. By the time we got to Ray, it was old hat. It didn't have, that was, that was too, it was done too much if you got to go to it twice that quickly. I mean, they were clearly feeling the pressure from WWF at that point in time, in the Monday Night War. So it never felt organic and felt forced. But once he came to WWF, I mean, he was still. I think his notoriety just blossomed and bloomed and exploded that much more. So, it, and you saw more, and you just saw more of that, you know, WWE side of Ray, where it's just like you tell a story, you do more of the promo stuff, a lot of stuff that he wasn't doing in WCW when it came to like all he did was wrestle. Like that was because that's all the cruiserweights did. They weren't giving much story unless you were like Chris Jericho, and then it sort of picked up. But in WWE, you really saw Rey Mysterio as this like superhero figure, and that was very cool. And I think that's something that's stood the test of time. He is still a wrestler that other wrestlers look up to. I mean, guys in the business who are wrestling with him are still in awe of him. And what does that tell you about Rey Mysterio? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, and it was funny because when we were sitting here watching, what was it, the Greatest Royal Rumble, when it was like was it the Royal Rumble? Or was it the Greatest Royal Rumble when like it was Rey Mysterio, Cena, and Orton, and then like that was the regular Rumble, and like it felt old seeing Cena and Orton in there, but Rey Mysterio, I never felt like he was forced to come back. Like Rey Mysterio is just like that cool to me, that much of a hero that like he'll never seem like old school. Like Rey Mysterio transcends that type of like thought process when it comes to wrestling. Like I'm a John Cena fan, but like it's time for him to go. Like I don't get hyped or excited for anything John Cena does anymore. I know Randy Orton, that's your boy. He's a good hand, but I think it's time for him to just like get other dudes over. But Rey Mysterio, oh yeah, let him come back. Do whatever. I mean, I was really looking forward to seeing him do some New Japan stuff before he got hurt. I mean, he still ended up coming back and doing a match, which was cool. That was fun to see. He did something with against the Bullet Club, which was fun. I mean, even that stuff in Marty Scurll, like he's wrestling the younger guys and looks just as fast and as strong as they do, and like mixing his styles with their styles. So it's been fun to watch him. Like, yes, he's already etched in stone as one of the greatest ones ever, but he's still doing it.
Yeah.
And doing it at a pace that like I mean, everybody on this list I have is either dead or retired except Rey Mysterio. I mean, Jeff Jarrett, I think still from time to time may do something, but I don't.
A championship somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, like, but Jarrett looks old to me. Like Rey Mysterio does not look or feel old
Gotcha.
in terms of his presence as a wrestler and as an ambassador of the sport. You know what I'm saying? Like he could, like I feel like he could go in the Hall of Fame and he'll be like Kurt Angle, still wrestling after the fact. Like that's probably gonna happen. And the fact that he's got a son who's being taught by him,
yeah,
like that's just incredible. So I mean, his legacy is already cemented in stone, and then the future of his legacy is still like being trained and groomed.
Mind you, he was already in the storyline.
Right? Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, Rey Mysterio is. I mean, to me, he kind of had to be my number one. In all honesty, like I think that was the one thing that I had an easy decision to make. Was just like, yeah, Rey Mysterio was up there, because I didn't have him on my immediate list. But it was like, wait a second, I'm missing somebody, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh yeah, Rey Mysterio, like he has to be on the list. Like it's like when I got WCW versus NWO for my N64, all I wanted to be was Rey Mysterio, like because he's just a high flyer. He's my size, just whooping up on people like twice his size, and it always just kind of felt real. It kind of felt like even as the underdog, he still wasn't the underdog. He was always the hero to me. And just because he just had that charisma and that charm and like all of, like and his gear too. Like all of his gear always just gave you the impression that he just cares about his look and his brand. So like Rey Mysterio, first person on my monument.
Alright, cool. Number 2. For me, I have to go with Ric Flair as my number 2.
16-time champion. I mean,
16-time counts for WWE, but whatever.
Whatever. Let's say 2-time Hall of Famer.
Yes.
You know.
And it's like, so I've been thinking a lot about the Monday Night Wars and like the build up and all that stuff, and it really comes down to WCW not utilizing Ric Flair. The matches they could have created with all the talent they were bringing in from WWE and not truly incorporating Flair into the mix was a downside to the company. People who were WWE fanatics at the time were Flair fans. Flair made that company, and like his contributions to just getting people over. You got Dusty, you've got Steamboat, you've got Savage, like so many people. The fact that, in my opinion, he was a nail in the coffin that they didn't even know. You know, and it's like everything he's done for the business, still to this day, with his daughter now carrying the legacy. It's insane. Like you can even walk down the street and say, "Woo!" Everyone will know what you're doing.
Yeah.
He's even in rap. You know? So it's like Ric Flair forever, in my opinion. So
that's a fascinating point to bring up, because I think Rick was sort of in and out of the company at that point in time. Not so much the fault of WCW, but I think I don't have to go look back on that, because I think that's an interesting perspective, because there was a Four Horsemen versus NWO moment, but it was very brief, and it ended at War Games 98, I think it was. I'll have to go back and look at that, but that's I think that's one angle of the Monday Night Wars that's kind of maybe gone undervalued or not really looked at, because I mean I've watched those Monday Night War series over 1,000,000 times, and I mean you talk about the cruiserweights, bringing in the guys from WWE, but Ric Flair isn't really touched upon too much beyond being like it was Ric Flair and Sting who opened up Monday Nitro, and then they basically turned out the lights as the last match. But in between those bookends, there's not much in terms of like story that Flair or even any other horsemen were kind of booked into, beyond like Kevin Nash doing, making fun of Arn Anderson, and then like Ric Flair having like a fake heart attack or something like that. I think that was those were it. Like those are the two most like important or just memorable things I have in my bank of memories from Monday Nitro that involved Flair or the Horsemen. Like he was just so fired up to like I think wrestle Bischoff that he like had to like sit down. It was a crazy promo, because I remember Mean Gene was interviewing him. But yeah, that's interesting, because I mean Ric Flair he's forever. I mean, he's forever.
For this spot, initially it was going to be Dusty Rhodes, right? But I was like, that's cool and all, but like, how did Dusty even get over? Who was his main foil? And I was like, Ric Flair. And then I had to think about who else Ric Flair got to that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, he kind of outweighs Dusty in that portion. So that was my number 2. What about you?
My number 2 is Booker T. I mean, let's be real. This podcast is about black folk and black wrestling. So why the hell would I not have Booker T, who's one of my all-time favorites, on this monument? I mean, as a wrestling fan, he his career and Chris Jericho's careers were they've been the most those have been the two careers I followed the most because those are the first two wrestlers I truly remember being like, oh man, like watching them like debut at WCW or like get their start at WCW, like watching them grow there, and like watching Booker T grow. Like at first he was just part of Harlem Heat, like I was a huge Harlem Heat fan.
Oh yeah.
And then like he branched off of Harlem Heat and started doing his thing as a television title champion. And then he had a U.S. title. No, that was later. I think he won the television title again.
Yes, and I think the feuds were with Benoit as Pegasus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was beyond Pegasus. He was just Benoit.
Oh,
Pegasus was only in Japan. But yes, they had that best of 5 or best of 7 series. That ended up deciding who was going to be the next champion or number one contender for the champion. I mean, he's just been a good wrestler to me. His promos been fun. I mean, he had the charisma, the energy, and once he got to WWE, he got over even more. I mean, King Booker to this day is still one of my favorite things. His rivalry with Stone Cold is just with them fighting in the grocery store. It's just extremely memorable. I mean, it's so timeless.
Like that's always a new meme.
Yeah.
Like, whatever is happening in something that's used with that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, Booker T, another guy who's like Rey Mysterio, is a wrestling lifer. Like he has his own promotion. Like he's already got talent that he's trained that's already paying dividends to WWE. What's up, Ember Moon?
Right.
Like shout out to her. So. Another guy who once again legacy continues, and I think that's also kind of looked at as well as like, well, what did their impact in the business beyond just what they did and what they're doing for other folks, and I mean that's why I appreciate also like you brought up Ric Flair because I don't have to say Ric Flair because you said Ric Flair, which is like great as long as Ric Flair's up there because it's the same like he has brought a lasting impact on the wrestling business in terms of how people try to do their promos and how to be energetic or try to like, sell in the ring, like all of that stuff there. So there's not a Monday night, a Tuesday night, a Impact, any indie promotion you go to, and you don't see a Ric Flair impact. But to get back to Booker T, same like there is still those remnants of like, especially a lot of the black wrestlers we see, like just that charisma and knowing and like using what you got to get ahead. Where even if it's dancing and singing, like you know what, we're good at it. Why the hell would we not do it? You know what I'm saying? Like Booker T was doing the spinneroonie, and it's like that was his thing.
Yeah.
It was wonderful, and it's still memorable. And I mean, if you can get Vince McMahon to do your gimmick, you're over for life. But no, Booker T is one of my favorite wrestlers. He's one of my favorite people, and so there's no way I couldn't have him on my Mount Rushmore. I mean, he's won titles. He's been King of the Ring. He's got all those accolades. But I think his in-ring stuff, and he cut a decent promo. So gotta have him there. So number 3.
For me, my number 3 is The Rock. Same reason why you pick Booker, man. Like he was black, he was a champ, he was a shit talker. He has a show that's worth more than $1 billion, soon to be on Fox.
I mean, you talk about a guy who's made his impact just explode beyond wrestling. The Rock has done that.
Yes, and like his outside appeal brings people into the WWE. You know what I mean? Like he is transcending 2 completely different worlds into one, and it's spectacular. Like his promo style, I still get people to this day. It doesn't matter what you say. Like The Rock is just that man. He's that dude. He's the guy you really wish you could be. It's like he's dope.
Yeah.
Oh, he's decorated.
Decorated champion, no doubt.
He's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's what Jim Ross called him, a blue chipper, and that's definitely what he was. Here's the fascinating part about The Rock, because like, I had The Rock and Stone Cold as a battle between. I can't have both of my Mount Rushmore. It has to be one or the other. And when I look back on Stone Cold's career, there was only really one version of Stone Cold. If that makes sense. Like, he was always just the ass kicker, even when he was like Vince McMahon's boy and he was doing the what gimmick. It was silly, but like it was still heel.
Yeah.
It didn't there wasn't much. There wasn't a lot going on there. Where like you can, with The Rock. I mean, he was heel. He was a face. He was a heel that everybody still loved because he just talked shit so well.
He was a face that ended up being a heel that same night because they start booing him mid promo, so he just turned heel.
His style was very radical in terms of just like the stuff he would say. Like, he would just make up words. I mean, Poontang Pie. He literally has this there's a wrestling show named after one of his gimmicks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no wrestling WWE show. Like, there's no there's no can of whoop ass WWE show. There's SmackDown. That's it. I mean, I think that's why The Rock is still Rock's legacy kind of, in my opinion, overshadows Stone Cold.
Yep.
Stone Cold may have made Vince McMahon a billionaire, but The Rock keeps making Vince McMahon a billionaire.
Yep.
You know, he keeps bringing the money in. There's no doubt that Stone Cold was hotter, if we're looking at just like in terms of what he did in the business. But lasting impact, you gotta look at The Rock. I mean, and The Rock, and the other thing too was like The Rock probably could still be wrestling full time if he wanted to, because there was a certain point where Stone Cold was basically like reduced to punching and kicking because he worked himself to death. So like his in-ring stuff was tired.
Yeah.
And that's not no fault of his own, just a hard-working cat.
And the stuff with Owen didn't help.
Yeah. So I mean, he definitely had a lot of stuff that kind of set him back. Where like The Rock just kept going, and the only reason he's not, I mean, I could really see The Rock still wrestling to this day if he hadn't decided to like just stick to going into films and all that stuff. Like, cause I mean, he's so jacked. He's still just.
John Cena tying Ric Flair's record would have never happened. The Rock would probably have, like, let's be real, 17, 18, 19 heavyweight championship run. He had 8 total. So like by the time he was done, I think he was already at 7, 6.
Yeah.
And that was only a short burst of 3-4 years.
Yeah, The Rock definitely, as decorated as he is, he probably deserved more. Well, I mean, even him and Stone Cold, when you think about it, because like I think why we appreciate The Rock and Stone Cold so well is like the stories being told between them were really well done, and a lot of those times it was because they lost the belt, or they were chasing a belt, or they were chasing like a title. That's what made them more compelling to enjoy. Because if we look at Stone Cold, I don't think he has a lot of title reigns either. I don't keep track of his.
I think he had 5.
Yeah, but like his weren't up there. Like he was constantly trying to chase.
Yeah. As
opposed to just outright winning. So
he was always being screwed out of it.
Yeah, always getting screwed out of it. I mean, that was a story being told. Whereas Rock was like the cool heel who was just taking what was given to him because he was the guy there at the moment. So I think I struggled with that one, so I'm glad you have The Rock on yours, because I definitely probably have The Rock on mine and not Stone Cold, because Stone Cold was definitely integral to the business.
Yeah.
But I think the Rock's lasting legacy is that he's still, because he's The Rock, whatever you talk about The Rock, you always have to remember that he's a wrestler first and foremost. So anything he does, anything on HBO, any big movie, Fast and Furious 1 million, whatever The Rock's in, he's gonna get like he's always gonna be WWE superstar.
And
The
it
Rock.
literally says Dwayne The Rock.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yeah, like it's not Dwayne Johnson, it's Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I mean, there's, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like Stone Cold's still doing stuff with podcasts, and he's still part of the wrestling business, like in a deeper role than The Rock is. So like I can definitely see where like I can be argued that I'm coming from my perspective could be wrong. But if you're looking at WWE as a money making industry, the guy who literally makes billions of dollars in the film industry versus Stone Cold's winery and brewery and podcasts, I mean, there's not much of a competition when you talk about what Vince wants. Vince smells the money, and Vince is going to get that money.
And don't forget, like, I don't know anyone who's related to Stone Cold that's in the wrestling business, but The Rock already has 2 cousins who are already champions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Plus his lineage. I mean, his lineage in the wrestling business is just extremely deep. You don't want to say nepotism is the reason why somebody gets a Mount Rushmore plaque,
but The Rock though.
But I mean, he was just been groomed for this.
Yeah.
Period.
Literally.
Like this is what he's supposed to do. So yeah, no dispute for me on that one. Okay.
Yeah, you're number 3. Let's hear it, sir.
Okay. Number 3. I had to have a big man on my mount, and we're sitting here watching the best of Undertaker. And as we record this, Vader has just died less than a week ago. It's kind of between those two. For me, it like in terms of just like big guys who were memorable.
You got a coin?
No, I mean. I'm probably gonna go with Undertaker. I will say Undertaker just because
His lasting impression, man.
I mean, yeah, not just his lasting impression. The fact that he was able to like not just be the Undertaker, he was also Big Evil and like Dead Man Inc. and all that stuff. So I mean, he was able he reinvented himself for a while, did that, came back, and was Undertaker, and was still the man. I mean, you know, his streak is undeniable. Even though it's broken, it's still like it's one of those things that even though some of those wins in the streak were total shit matches,
What I'm talking about?
those matches are absolutely
Randy Orton ate the streak, just letting that be known.
Absolutely guys. Booty some of the matches were. I mean they were, yeah. I mean, they absolutely were. Oh my gosh, they just have a picture of Johnny Gonzalez like kind of like frozen like this because Taker hit him like he's spazzing out, having a weird spasm. But like, I learned more about Vader as an adult, and more about his like New Japan stuff and like all this other stuff. Like I knew about Vader in WCW and WWF, but I feel like the lore of Vader in general as the big man I missed out on, and I'm still just learning now to appreciate a lot more. Not even just saying it because he died, but like even before that I just started watching a lot more Vader matches in the past couple of years, and I had only really watched the Stan Hansen Vader match from New Japan, so there were I follow a lot of guys on Twitter who were like just recommending other Vader matches that I favorited, so I can go back and find them on either New Japan website or on YouTube, because I mean the dude was a badass, but it's not. I don't think it's fair for me to say he's on my Mount Rushmore when I missed out on some of what made him. Will basically validate that whole idea. So I mean, the Undertaker is definitely that to me. I mean, I've been watching him. That's another one since I was a little shorty. I've watched the Undertaker be Undertaker, and he's always had that like mystique to him, and to this day he still has it, even with all the kayfabe and reality era stuff. I mean, the dead man is still this like just mysterious figure. I mean, we know who he is, we know who Mark Calloway is, but we don't really. And I think there's something to that when you're in the wrestling business, and we gotta protect your gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And Undertaker's gimmick was being that mysterious dude. Like, even when he was the biker badass, you didn't really know what the Undertaker or who the Undertaker was,
or what he was gonna do.
or yeah. So I mean, that's
like, look at the names he's put over. Like, look at the stars he's helped create since his career.
yeah.
Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, John Cena, Eddie Guerrero,
Jeff Hardy.
Jeff Hardy.
One of his best matches was that ladder match on Monday Night Raw with Jeff Hardy. Like, that was amazing. Yeah, I mean, and not even just stars he put over, but just great matches he's had with big stars. Like his WrestleMania match with Shawn Michaels.
One or two.
Both. Like, both were stellar. The first one at 25 was, that's still one of my favorite matches of all time. Like, that match was incredible. Even his matches with Triple H too. I mean, that was a cage match, I want to say, with Triple H, with Shawn Michaels. That was incredible. That was one hell of a match. I mean, he's had.
No, the first Hell in a Cell was Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Triple H, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels.
No, I'm talking about the one where Shawn Michaels was the guest referee.
With Triple H.
Yes,
oh,
that's what I'm talking about. That was
WrestleMania 28, right?
I think
Last of an era or whatever.
I think so. But yeah, that was a wonderful match, and it's memorable because it's the Undertaker, and there's no way you don't have him up there. I mean, the Undertaker's one of those just like gimmicks that I don't think can ever be replicated.
Nah. And
you see, they tried to do that opposite gimmick with Mordecai, and that was just terrible. And you see like variations of it on the indies, or just kind of like, that whole darkness angle. And he didn't set the trend, because I mean, Kevin Sullivan's been doing the satanic gimmick forever too. So it's not like the Undertaker's gimmick is the most original thing, but it's been the most consistent gimmick of all time. Because I mean, even Hulkamania became Hollywood Hogan, and now it's like either or. But like, Undertaker is always gonna be the Undertaker. Like, that is just him. And and when you think about it, Undertaker is a cartoony ass gimmick.
Oh, absolutely.
It's such a fucking cartoon gimmick, but it's still scary as shit. And that's because Mark Calloway made you believe the Undertaker is still like gonna fucking haunt your dreams and bury you. Like, he was the Sandman. Like, that was it. So yeah, Undertaker is my big man. I mean, they're taking these chair shots, like, they don't bother him. Like, Jake Roberts, you better go run away now. Like, who cares?
So unlike Kenny, I don't believe my list deserves a big man. I'm not a big guy myself, so
Ooh.
I'm not adding a big man. I am adding, however, the flamboyant, show-stealing, show-stopper himself, Shawn Michaels, HBK, as my number 4. He's possibly one of the most decorated superstars ever. His matches are always phenomenal. He got poop pants over, like, insane. He had some brown colored shorts that were like poop. They were ugly as hell. But he wore them in a match one time. Turned around, literally went through some shit. His whole career was in shambles. And then he turned around, came back possibly even better, in my opinion. Came back even better from being the best. So it's like, and without him, the business, the wrestling business wouldn't be where it is. It wouldn't be pseudo edgy, pseudo realistic. Like, none of that would be happening without Shawn Michaels, in my opinion. So like, his country, like, look, literally 90% of the matches, all of them are using Shawn Michaels' kit. There's going to be a super kick. There's going to be some type of dive over the rope. There's going to be it's just, the shit he would do.
Yeah.
It's almost all the matches now.
I mean, no doubt he's definitely one of the most controversial wrestling superstars of all time. Stories about him just behind the scenes, legendary. Even before he was HBK, and he was just Shawn Michaels as one of the rockers. I almost said the Heartbreakers. But I can't dispute. There's nothing to dispute about that. Let's just look beyond his wrestling. D-Generation X and the whole Attitude Era. Like, that's indirectly because of Shawn Michaels. We hear stories from those who were around Vince McMahon at that time about more attitude, and Shawn Michaels and his asshole attitude. As much as Vince didn't like it, that's what he said his company needed. I mean, what else? When the boss is saying that your prickish ways is what's going to get us the money, and it gets you the money, and it may have almost killed him though. Like that attitude may have definitely contributed to his shitty ways, and thankfully HBK is beyond that and he's in a better place. But man, the wrestling business gives as much as it gets type of deal, because the WWF at that time definitely exploded because Attitude Era, when guys be themselves, just turned up to 40, worked. It definitely left a lot of guys in some really dark places, and HBK was one of them. But
not just the WWF, the wrestling business.
and you're absolutely right. The wrestling business in general is a fascinating, carny, dark, but also a place of redemption. Surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly,
Goldberg?
but no, not even Goldberg, but actually HBK.
Oh, true.
You know,
what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, the motherfucker we're talking about right now. His story is literally like the rise and fall, or the fall and the rise type of joint. He's basically helping with NXT right now. He's getting the next generation ready to be wrestlers and primetime guys type joint. So HBK's legacy is still ongoing within the business, and it's great that we still have him here, because we've had a lot of stories where there have been guys who can be not necessarily compared to HBK, but guys who are just as big as HBK who didn't make it out of the business alive, or had their careers cut short by just injuries, or by their own self-destruction.
Yeah.
So, for HBK and to a lesser extent Ric Flair too. Hell, that man was in an airplane crash and broke his back.
He almost died a year ago.
He almost died a year ago too. And he's still. Just the ability to just kick out and still be a part of the business and contribute to the business is kind of a big deal. And for HBK, there's none other really like HBK, because his story is very unique in terms of what he's been involved in, what he's been around, and what he's contributed. There's the curtain call, there's DX, there's the Attitude Era, there's the screw job. Retiring Rick Chamber. Yeah, being on Elimination Chamber, being retiring Ric Flair.
Being retired by the Undertaker.
They were just he's just been HBK, not just Mr. WrestleMania, but it's Mr. WWE. You look at him from being the tag team specialist with Marty Jannetty to where he is now. How is he not a two-time Hall of Famer? D-Generation.
They haven't done DX yet.
And that's what blows my mind, that they haven't done DX yet as going into Hall of Fame, because how could that group not be I feel like there used to be a faction Hall of eventually where NWO and DX go in, and if they go in at the same time, cool. They were synonymous with the Monday Night Wars. Yep. They really were. They both deserve to have those those achievements truly highlighted and etched in stone, because not just for WCW, WWF, just for wrestling in general, those factions are still the waves of those factions are still being felt to this moment.
Yeah.
So he should be the next 2-time Hall of Famer.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, bring us in, reel us in. What's your number 4? Let's
from
your list of 40.
From my list of 40 guys, right? Okay, let's bring it home, right? Oh my gosh, I don't know. So here's where I struggle, because I also feel like hardcore wrestling is the stepchild of just wrestling in general, and people don't I hate death matches. I can't watch death matches. I think they're the worst fucking things. I don't understand explosions and all the barbed wire shit and all the light bulbs.
Nah, we're good on that.
Yo, I mean,
I don't like that.
That shit is still listen, Joey Janela would tell you right now, baby, that still is hot, and I can't dispute it because people are still paying to see that shit.
Paying, CZW was a promotion.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, in GCW too. That's still where the money is for some folks. So I can't discredit the impacts to the business Mick Foley and Terry Funk had.
I mean, you can't, in my personal opinion, you could separate them, but you can't really.
But you can't really.
You know what I mean? You could put Terry Funk in, but see, Terry Funk is in after you just strip him from Mick, it's tied with Dory. So it's
yeah, because then it's you just put the Funks on on the monument as this the Funks, the Funk family. Yeah, no, and and so I guess I would just go with neither and put Hogan up there. Wow. That's the thing too. Is yeah, hardcore wrestling is still big, but I mean, the things that they did to their bodies and for what? I mean, I don't think it made. I think Mick Foley got over more as, the three faces of Foley than to his wrestling, because when it came to wrestling, I mean, young Funk, yeah, he had it, but older Funk and Mick Foley, they were just fighting, with this shit, I mean, whatever they get their hands on, and that was cool. I mean, okay, and I'm not gonna say Mick Foley's elbow to the outside of the ring was a thing of beauty, but holy shit, you should not be taking that bump all the damn time to concrete with your hips like that, just.
Didn't he have hip replacement surgery?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and those bumps were part of that reason he had to have it. So, their impacts are tremendous, but I don't think that they overshadow Hogan's, because we talk about The Rock, doing that crossover. Hogan was the original one.
Yeah, but he wasn't successful.
Well,
that's why I didn't put him in his mind. That's
what I'm saying.
I thought Hogan too. I kid you not.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing though. There had to be one who tried it, and he tried it first.
Yeah.
It didn't. I mean, it's looked back on hilariously fondly, it's a definite joke to laugh at. But at least he was out there doing it. I mean, Jordan tried baseball, right? I mean. Hogan, I mean, come on. When you look at Hogan was one of the best of all times. What he did, the man had charisma. He had the passion for the business. He could talk that shit. Was internationally known. The man, man was over in Japan doing the same shtick he's been doing here, and it's over like Rover. So can't dispute that. I mean, he was in Rocky. I mean, he had some feature films that were where he didn't star, where he was just in because he was Hulk Hogan. It's right. He was in 3 Ninjas. Thank you, Nick. That's so awesome. And I just saw a tweet about it said that just showed the three Ninjas masks, and it said, if you don't know who these masks belong to, I can't date you or something like that. It's 3 Ninjas. I forgot he was the bad guy.
The dope ass part with the spray painted on it.
Oh my gosh. That's right. Wasn't that the 3 Ninjas where they were fighting on The amusement park. Yes, that was the amusement park one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was one of them straight to direct to VHS boys. But that's okay though, because 3 Ninjas was always amazing. But Hogan was still there. Hogan's still there to me because I mean, once again, as big as he was in WWE, he made with the help of Hall and Nash, he was just as big in WCW.
I think he was bigger actually because NWO, much like DX, transcends and was the driving force
I couldn't dispute that at all.
For the again, that's why I put Michaels up there because they won.
And here's the thing too: there are probably young people who probably know Hogan more so for Hollywood Hogan than Hulkamania.
Hulkamania.
Yeah, so no doubt.
Or Mr. America.
He wasn't Mr. America. He had a lie detector. He totally wasn't Mr. America. But no, I mean, all his legal shit aside, you can't dispute what Hogan has done and what he's meant to this business. So he definitely is on my Rushmore. It's just a hard call though, because I mean, here are the other names. Like I had Chris Benoit, I had Macho Man, I had Dusty, Eddie Guerrero, I said Funk and Foley. I had Kurt Angle up here as well, Bret Hart as well. But I mean,
I think we have their rivals listed higher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like their main rivals. So it's I don't think they could take that spot. I was gonna add Savage, but his impression after the business wasn't really that big.
No, I mean he was the one guy who definitely he was able to parlay his gimmick into money making things that are still around today, like the Madness shirts, him, Macho Man as Slim Jims will forever be synonymous with Undertaker, with Macho Man, because he had that in WWE, he had that in WCW, Slim Jims and Macho Man. Oh yeah, forever. I mean, his gimmicks, all his catchphrases and things. Everybody remembers those things. I mean, his match with Steamboat is still up there as one of the greatest of all time. But there's still so much stuff that other folks have done that I feel like Macho Man, I don't know, it's hard because he told great stories. I mean, the stuff with him and Miss Elizabeth.
But what has he done outside of wrestling that,
But see, does it have to matter though? Doesn't it have to matter?
There's no for me to put Savage up there, it would be something still to this day is a reminding factor of Savage.
mean, the big elbow drop is still everybody still hails that as something that's a Macho Man original. I mean, but for me it doesn't really matter. I think for me my issue, or what holds me back from putting him on my monument, is that there was always somebody above him.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't Hogan, it was Ultimate Warrior. And by the time, and even in between, Ric Flair was kind of there for a moment. And then they could have built something there for Hogan with Flair and Macho. I think they had one match at WrestleMania, but it's still one of those that we forget about that happened. He's always he's just on the cusp.
Yeah.
He's always touching the glass ceiling, but he's never busting through. Even when he was champ in WWF, it was because Hogan was doing movies. I mean, ouch.
The Mega
you know what I'm saying?
It wasn't meant to put Randy over.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was, but it was a temporary solution
for the story to get
for
Hogan over.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely doesn't help his argument for being on my Rushmore. I still think he probably deserves a spot. Yeah, this was fun, but also very hard. This was a really frustrating task, but just mostly because when you grew up watching so much wrestling, you see everything these guys do and all the things they put their bodies through to entertain us. So at the end of the day, it's all entertainment. Like even this is entertainment. Like this is entertaining us and folks around whoever listens to it. You know what I'm saying? But they all deserve a spot in some sort of Hall of Fame because they've given their lives in some form or fashion, their bodies to this business. And the guys who've lasted long enough to still be around living doing this, more power to them. But no, not really a but. It's difficult to have to round to like take 20 or 30 names and put it to 4. Like that's why you always see so many top 10 and top 20 countdowns because everybody just needs a spot. But sometimes you really have to look and like take perspective of what those wrestlers or whatever you're trying to do a top whatever for, just see what they did in the business. And sometimes not everything is equal in terms of like what they contributed. Because I mean, hell, we see now that sometimes you're just made champion because they want to see if you can do it and make it and actually create your own legacy with that title. You know, and but
Sasha
everybody,
Banks.
yeah, yeah, but everybody on this list, they weren't just. I mean, well, Triple H was kind of given a European title, but that was his storyline. That was his storyline.
And the WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah.
He was literally given it.
Yeah, that's right. No, that was the WCW title. Like, when it was vacant, and Bischoff handed it off to him. Super crazy, but everybody on this, everybody I had written down, really earned their spot, or really earned their keep within the business, I still feel like I didn't have any women on my list, and I need to correct that. But the two women that I'm most familiar with are terrible people. Well, not terrible, not both of them, but the one's terrible individual. The other one I could give it. I really wasn't that interested in her career in the first place. So like that's
Wendy?
No, not Wendy. Mae Young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. See, like I wasn't really interested in her career to begin with. So I mean, Medusa and Bull Nakano were like the two women I grew up watching wrestle. But I guess I would. No, I guess I just would. They would go on just by default. But then that's not fair to them because I actually need to do myself a favor and actually go back and watch the matches I didn't see or I don't remember because Superstars only showed you like Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano like a million times, or the jumping bomb. Like the women I remember from like old school WWFE is like Bull Nakano, Alundra Blaze, and Wendy Richter, and then May and Moolah, and then the jumping bomb angels. Like that's until like Jackie and Sable and Luna and like all the other women that came around. There wasn't much in terms of women's wrestling I was familiar with. So I still feel my Mount Rushmore is kind of incomplete if we're taking a really hard look at what the business of wrestling is and who we like hold accountable, who we say did this for this, this, and this. So like I still feel like my list is incomplete. So it was hard. And we're watching Kurt Angle. We're watching Ric Flair. No, because I was gonna say Kurt Hennig is on the outside.
Oh,
and like Kurt Hennig is also one of those
never
you definitely
top guy.
Never. Here's the thing: he was never a top guy, but you can't tell me he doesn't deserve a spot on Mount Rushmore.
He does not deserve a spot on Mount
I
Rushmore.
disagree. I will absolutely disagree. The man was talented in the ring, could bump his ass off, could sell a promo. Like once again, another guy who is just circumstances. He was so good at selling for everybody else. He was so good at being a heel that unless he was just going to be the heel, and I don't ever think he was at any point in time when he was in the company, he was always the guy getting somebody over.
Yeah, he was the Razor Ramon, basically, in that role, and being like, if you could work with this guy, you could get a good match, you're on to that next level.
Yeah.
So that's why I would never put him on my mount. He was he wasn't the quote unquote standard bearer. You know what I mean? Like he was the prototypical or the like above what is expected in terms of wrestling, absolutely, but he never got a chance to show off what he could really do.
That's the thing, he never got a chance. I mean, you said it best. And that's why I don't think
I can't put him on there.
I mean, but that's why I think he so deserves a spot, because I think if given that chance, he'd have been amazing. I mean, but that's hearsay because it didn't happen. So I get your point. So
kind of like same goes to Razor Ramon. Like he never got a chance to be that.
Yeah,
guy.
same.
So
I wouldn't.
Why I couldn't put him on my list.
Same. I agree with that. Never really had a world title run, so we didn't get a chance to see that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say? Just be on the lookout. We're gonna be dropping some more stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, but definitely gonna be doing some more extras for the YouTube page. As in terms of anything else, I have to say, looking forward to the New Japan G1 starting up. So
when does it start?
We have till the end of the month. So are we in July now?
No.
Okay. Today's the last day of June, right?
Second to last.
Second to last. So once July.
No. Today's the last day. It's 30th.
Yeah. So the G1 special at the Cow Palace, I think, is here in a couple of weeks. And then once that happens,
that's one in San Fran, right?
Yeah, and then once that happens, then the climax kicks off. So usually it starts around mid-July, in July, and then goes all the way to August. And then
how many weeks is it?
It's a haul. I want to say it's like 3 or 4 weeks. It's a listen. It's worth it.
The winner gets to face the IWGP World Champion.
That's right.
The Wrestle Kingdom.
That's right.
13.
That is absolutely correct. They get a little briefcase now too. Briefcase and a trophy. Yeah, so it'll be fun to see. Kenny Omega, one of my favorites, is in there, and there was some interesting stuff on Twitter this afternoon about Omega. I will read more into that. I'm not sure completely what it was, but something happened. But yeah, no, this was fun. It was fun. I just talked about WWE. I definitely think we're going to start doing more with other promotions in terms of just like talking about what we're seeing, about the wrestling we're enjoying seeing, as opposed to just like what the norm is for wrestling.
I stopped watching WWE syndication, so I don't even know who's really happening on shows.
Well, then you should start watching other things. There's MLW,
Eventually.
There's Impact, and they're all on you. And you don't even like they have their clips on YouTube if you don't have to have TV to watch it. So yeah, watch them.
No, eventually, I gotta find what I like about it first before I just like watch it and it's just like, oh, this is cool. Then I watch another match and it's just shit, and then the other match is shit. Like I don't want to watch shit. That's why I stopped watching Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live.
All right, there, Edgelord. Settle down.
I just wanna look at something real hard.
We're freezing.
It's hot, guys. Stay cool.
Yes, it is hot. It's 90 some odd degrees here in Chicago. It feels like 108. So stay cool. For your boy,
John O'Penn.
And it is I, KT, your wrestling friend. Good afternoon, good evening, and